Let me ask you something real. What if I told you the most attractive trait a man can have has nothing to do with his jawline or his bank account? We've been fed the same lie over and over. Get rich, get jacked, get the car, and then you'll be irresistible. But deep down we all know that's not the full truth. Because some guys have none of that, and still walk into a room and command every ounce of attention. So, what do they have that others don't? One thing: a deeply rooted, unshakable sense of self. This is the man who doesn't need to be the loudest. He doesn't chase approval. He moves with purpose, speaks with intention, and knows who he is, even when the world tries to tell him otherwise. And that energy, it's magnetic. As Will Smith once said, self-discipline is self-love. That kind of inner command is what draws people to you without effort. So, we're talking about self-belief, emotional control, grounded masculinity, and mission-driven purpose here. Not ego, not bravado, real, quiet power. This is the man who doesn't flinch when he's challenged, doesn't fold when rejected, and doesn't crumble when life gets hard. Women don't just want him, they respect him. Look around, you know. The men who consistently win in life, love, and leadership aren't always the tallest, richest, or best-looking. They're the ones who are centered, who operate from internal validation, not external praise. He who is not a slave to his emotions can rule anything, said Marcus Aurelius. And that's the trait we're diving into today, the one that makes a man unforgettable. I've seen it time and time again. Average guys transforming their lives, becoming absolutely magnetic, not because they bought something, but because they built something within unshakable masculine energy. And here's the promise I'll make to you right now. By the end of this video, you'll understand exactly what this trait is, how to develop it, and why mastering it will make women see you in a way they've never seen you before. This is your blueprint for becoming the most powerful version of yourself, without changing who you are, just by owning it fully. So, if you've ever asked, why does that guy get all the attention when I try way harder? You're about to get your answer, and once you understand it, there's no going back. You'll never look at attraction the same way again. So, bro, before we dive in, do this right now. Like this video, subscribe for more real, no BS wisdom, and comment below. I move with purpose. Make it your mantra, your mindset, your standard. Let's unlock the trait that makes you undeniable. Let's begin. Stay focused. Trait number 1. Grounded self-belief. Unshakable inner confidence. The most irresistible trait a man can have, bar none, is grounded self-belief. Not cockiness, not arrogance, but a deep, unshakable knowing of who he is, what he stands for, and what he will or will not tolerate. It's the difference between a man who needs validation and a man who validates himself. You ever walk into a room and feel someone's presence before they even speak? That's not about looks, height, or status. That's grounded energy. A man who doesn't need to prove anything because he already knows his worth. As Muhammad Ali once said, "I am the greatest. I said that even before I knew I was." That's belief. That's power. When a man truly believes in himself, people instinctively trust him. Not because he says the right things, but because he doesn't need to impress anyone. He's centered. He's rooted. He doesn't chase approval. He radiates it from within. And, in a world full of noise and insecurity, that kind of quiet certainty is rare and magnetic. Self-belief also creates emotional control. A man who trusts himself doesn't overreact. He doesn't spiral when things don't go his way. He can take rejection, pressure, even chaos, and stay composed. That calm energy is what women pick up on. It signals safety, strength, and stability. It tells her, "I've got me, and I don't need to control you to feel secure." According to psychologist Dr. Joe Dispenza, where you place your attention is where you place your energy. A grounded man places his attention on his mission, not on chasing attention. That's why self-belief is the foundation of high-value, masculine energy. It frees you from emotional dependence on others. Think about it. The most magnetic men in history, from James Bond to Bruce Lee, from Barack Obama to Elon Musk, share this core trait. They may be wildly different in style, but they all operate from a place of deep internal certainty. And that's what makes them unforgettable. If you want to become truly irresistible, start here. Build a relationship with yourself so strong the world can't shake it. Because once you stop looking outward for permission to be confident, you become unstoppable. Trait number 2, emotional control, power under pressure. If grounded self-belief is the foundation, emotional control is the armor. The second trait that makes a man truly irresistible is his ability to remain calm, composed, and emotionally steady, especially under pressure. In a world that constantly tries to provoke a reaction, the man who doesn't flinch stands out. This isn't about bottling emotions or pretending to be unbothered. It's about mastery, knowing your emotions without letting them control you. When a man can stay level-headed during conflict, rejection, or uncertainty, he communicates strength on a primal level. That calm energy makes people, especially women, feel safe around him. As Stoic philosopher Epictetus once said, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." A man with emotional control doesn't lash out, beg, chase, or crumble when things don't go his way. He responds with clarity, not chaos. And in doing so, he earns respect without even asking for it. Let's be real. Women test men all the time, often unconsciously. It's not manipulation. It's biology. They want to know, can he handle me? Can he hold space when I'm emotional, insecure, or even unpredictable? A man who can stay grounded in the middle of emotional storms sends a clear message. I'm not afraid of your emotions because I've mastered my own. High-value men don't let anger drive their decisions. They don't beg for attention or try to win every argument. Instead, they choose when and how to respond. That restraint, that intentionality, that's power. Emotional control shows that a man is operating from logic and vision, not impulse and insecurity. Even in business and leadership, the most influential men are those who can stay centered in chaos. Think of people like Nelson Mandela, who said, "I learned that courage was not the absence of fear, but the triumph over it." That's emotional control in action, facing pressure without breaking. When you combine emotional stability with grounded confidence, you become a man others trust instinctively, not just romantically, but in friendships, business, and leadership. You become the one people look to when things get hard, because your presence feels like certainty in an uncertain world. Bottom line, looks may catch attention, but emotional control commands it. And the man who commands attention without even trying, he becomes irresistible. Trait number 3, mission-driven purpose, the man on a path. If emotional control is your armor, then mission-driven purpose is your compass. The third trait that makes a man truly irresistible is having a clear, passionate direction in life. A man on a mission doesn't wander aimlessly. He knows who he is, where he's going, and what he's building. That clarity, it's magnetic. There's something deeply attractive about a man who's focused, not just on himself, but on something greater than himself. He's not just living to impress others or fill time with distractions. He's building something, becoming something, and chasing something real. As Friedrich Nietzsche once said, "He who has a why to live can bear almost any how." You can spot this kind of man instantly. He's disciplined with his time, intentional with his energy, and unbothered by drama. Why? Because he's not available for nonsense. His mission comes first. Whether it's his career, craft, business, health, or personal growth, he wakes up each day with purpose. That alone separates him from 99% of men. Women are wired to be drawn to men with direction. Why? Because purpose signals stability, strength, and leadership. It shows you're not reactive, floating through life. You're proactive, grounded, and going somewhere. And here's the truth. A man with purpose doesn't chase women. He attracts them. In fact, many of the most iconic men in history, from Martin Luther King Jr. to David Goggins to Elon Musk, share this trait. Their missions consumed them. Their vision pulled them forward. They weren't obsessed with being liked. They were obsessed with creating impact. And people, especially women, feel that energy. Even in relationships, purpose changes everything. A man on a mission doesn't lose himself when he falls in love. He doesn't abandon his goals or collapse into neediness. Instead, he invites his partner into a life of meaning. That's what makes him high value, not just what he has, but what he's building. Tony Robbins said it best. People are not lazy. They simply have impotent goals. That is, goals that do not inspire them. A man with a compelling mission becomes a force of nature, and that force draws others into his orbit, not because he's chasing them, but because he's chasing something bigger. So if you want to become irresistible, don't just focus on being desirable. Focus on being directional. A man who walks with purpose needs no introduction. His presence speaks for him. And once a woman senses that unshakable drive, she'll want to be part of your story, not the center of it. Trait number 4, grounded masculine energy. Calm, centered, unmovable. While confidence, emotional control, and purpose are essential, there's one trait that brings them all together: grounded masculine energy. It's not loud, flashy, or forceful. In fact, it's the opposite. It's calm, present, solid. It's the kind of energy that makes people feel safe without a word being spoken. Grounded masculine energy is what happens when a man is fully anchored in himself. He's not easily shaken, not reactive to every opinion or mood, and doesn't feel the need to perform for approval. He knows who he is and stands on it, no matter what's happening around him. Think of men like Keanu Reeves or Jason Statham, cool, quiet, composed. They don't need to dominate a room to own it. As Bruce Lee once said, be like water. Grounded energy isn't stiff or rigid. It's adaptable, but unbreakable. This kind of man doesn't chase control over others. He controls his own state. That's where real alpha presence comes from. Not dominance, but inner stability. When a man is grounded, his energy does the talking. He doesn't over-explain himself. He doesn't need to argue to be understood. His posture, tone, and stillness say it all. And people especially women, pick up on it immediately. Why? Because grounded energy equals emotional safety. It tells her, you can be fully you around me and I'll still be solid. You'll see this trait in the men who don't get rattled by rejection or criticism. They don't take things personally. They don't get pulled into petty drama. Why? Because they're not ruled by ego, they're centered in principle. They're not trying to be alpha, they simply are. In today's reactive, noisy world, this kind of presence is rare. But when you master it, you become a calming force in the chaos. You don't just walk into rooms differently, you change the energy of them. That's what makes a man irresistible, not because he's trying to impress, but because he brings peace and power everywhere he goes. And the best part? Grounded energy can be developed. Through self-awareness, breathwork, stillness and discipline, you can train yourself to respond instead of react, to pause before you speak, to move with intention. And the more you do, the more people will start to feel your presence, before you even say a word. Trait number 5. Non-attachment to outcome, unshakable detachment. One of the most misunderstood but deeply magnetic traits in high-value men is, it doesn't mean not caring. It means, a man who is non-attached can want something without needing it. And that difference? It's everything. Because when a man doesn't chase or cling, he becomes a challenge, a mystery. Non-attachment is the art of being invested in the process, but it's knowing your worth so well that you don't need any specific person or situation to validate it. That energy is intoxicating. It shows confidence, self-sufficiency, and a refusal to beg for what should flow naturally. As Jay-Z once said, that mindset of being the value, not chasing the value, is the very essence of non-attachment. Women feel it instantly. You're not trying to win her over. You're not anxious about what she thinks. You're showing up in your fullness and letting her decide. When you're non-attached, rejection doesn't sting the same way. You don't spiral. You don't personalize it. Why? Because your identity isn't tied to. That's the kind of emotional independence that separates boys from men. And paradoxically, when you don't need a person, that's often when they want you more. Think about it. The man who texts without overthinking, who expresses interest without over-investing, who can walk away without resentment. That man stands out. He's rare. He's confident without being cold, present without being possessive. And that's what makes him to women who are used to either clingy energy or emotional games. Non-attachment is also a sign of deep self-trust. You trust that what's meant for you will flow to you, and what isn't won't disturb your peace. You're no longer ruled by fear of loss, and that makes you. Because you're not chasing love, you love embodied. You're not begging for connection, you're choosing from abundance. In the end, this isn't about playing games or being too cool to care. It's about emotional mastery. It's knowing your value so deeply that you're willing to walk away from anything that doesn't align with it. And in doing so, you attract everything that. Master this trait, and everything else aligns. Your confidence, your relationships, your success. It all starts here. The world doesn't need more men pretending to be alpha. It needs more men who are grounded, purposeful, emotionally solid, and self-led. Be the man they can't ignore. If this message spoke to you, now's the time to step up. Like this video to show you're ready. Subscribe so you never miss a drop of real, no BS wisdom. And drop this in the comments to claim it. I move with power. I lead with purpose. You're not just watching a video. You're choosing to rise. Let's build something legendary. I'll see you in the next one.